when you say something and it's like it harkens him, it summons him from nowhere. He just suddenly appears.
That's
you remember
fair.
when I was like, nobody picked Montreal, and suddenly he's like, I did. And I was like, oh, out of nowhere.
That was great. That was
the best timing that we've had on this show. Yeah.
I think that was my favorite moment of last week.
Yeah, that was a good one. Mm.
So this NFL draft is like 60% commercials.
Just like the NFL. Shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Boom.
I know we have a ton of shit to get through today, so
we do.
My recommendation would be that
let's tear through it.
Let's not just tear through it, but as far as games of the week, especially now that we've had Wednesday games, rather than like narrowing a few down that we don't want to talk about, I really think we should just talk about the highlights from the last weekend. Like whatever you guys would consider the major games that are worth talking about.
Yeah.
That's sort of what we.
There were a lot of games last weekend that were fucking awesome, though. I have to say.
I know, but there's a ton of news. God, there's a lot of news.
There's a.
I just realized you said that, and I'm supposed to be mad at you're saying that.
Saying what?
There's awesome games last weekend.
Awesome games.
I don't think that Portland, DC was one of the awesome games.
Okay, I mean, like, emotionally awesome for you, though, I bet.
I don't know. I mean...
Emotionally cathartic?
The weird thing, and you should leave this in, I will say that the thing about being a Timbers fan is that it goes that way for most Portland sports. You have no expectation of the team winning or even being very good. You just want the team to be interesting. And honestly, I haven't seen my team win a game narrative was fascinating. Now they're just a shitty team. Before they were this like snake-bitten crazy team, and that's what sports is you make this narrative in your head and you watch it play out in the world, and it's fun to have a story that you're kind of there along for the ride, and so
now that you've won, that's all. It's not interesting anymore. So I watched.
It's not that it's not interesting, but it's like, oh my god, I'm so glad. And I was like, I don't know, it's kind of funny when they were just like. So for me, I almost like, yes, it was nice to see them win, and it was nice to see them get a goal at the very end of the game. But the narrative of, yeah, they were up 2-0. Well, okay. So the narrative of, yeah, DC wasn't going to draw, so they own goaled it, and then next week against LA they could have like 2 own goals. You know, and just continue to tie in like increasingly more absurd fashion. To me, is actually funny. You know,
so I watched this. I watched this show Portlandia.
Yeah.
And the opening of Portlandia is "Keep Portland Weird." And I feel like that's what you're telling me right now about y'all's sports teams. It's that it's not like it's despair like it is in Buffalo and Minnesota and Cleveland. It's just like, oh, we're in like a historic losing thing? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, and I really like your point about the narrative, because I think especially in MLS we're really guilty of doing the whole like, okay, so the team lost 2 games and then had 3 draws. They are winless in 5. But as soon as you get that winless in 5 becomes undefeated in 4.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah.
Yep.
I think that's hilarious.
Well, because I think MLS is kind of struggling to mythologize stuff, and that's what happens when you have a young league and young teams is you struggle to build up the myths that
Wait.
you see with English clubs and baseball clubs. And I'm talking about, you know, the Chicago Cubs. I'm not talking about DC being good in the 90s. You know, like let us look further back into history. Yes, we all know DC was good in the 90s.
Hey, did you know we were like dominant in the 90s? Not only were we good, we had the best team in MLS history.
Yeah.
Was 1998 DC United.
Yeah.
But isn't that just like saying like, oh, the Montreal Canadiens have 27 Stanley Cups? Well, there were only 6 teams in the league at that time. Like,
Yeah.
You know.
We don't have that.
Yeah.
We will though, actually. Although we didn't stay at 10 for long, but it was 10. There were a couple of years of 12, but it was mostly 10 from 96 to 2004. 2004 was the last 10-team year.
Yeah.
That was 10 years. And now we're about to get to 21. And so there will come a day where I will look upon my grandkids and say, you know that time when DC United was good back in my day. But I just don't get to do it now.
Like,
I mean, I do it anyway, but
you'll be a hologram and they'll actually be like iPhones. And
Yeah.
you'll be like, back in the day, DC United, when humans played soccer, DC was really good.
So, quick programming note. I think we should leave all of that in.
oh, I was talking as if we were putting that.
Fantastic.
In
So let's go ahead and we'll do a lead-in now, and then you can put that wherever
All
it's
right.
appropriate, Ian. I would assume
Yeah.
maybe when talking about Portland, I don't know
We'll
how you
probably
work
talk
that
about
in,
the
but-
Portland DC game anyway, because
Yeah.
we haven't actually talked about the game yet. I'm gonna quick plug in my computer. Give me like 10 seconds.
Cool.
In the meantime, I'll continue eating dinner.
Super.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like it's soup again.
It's soup, pickles, cheese, bread, and pickled herring. And beer.
Oh, pickled herring. How very Seattle of you.
Is it?
Yeah, man. You know that there's a massive Scandinavian culture here, right?
Yeah, I guess. So most of my family is from northern Wisconsin, where it's actually much stronger than in Seattle, even. So to me,
yes,
I'm like,
yes.
oh, well, yeah, there's like some Swedish stuff around, but you know,
Yeah, no, I
not
mean,
to
like,
the degree where everyone has a Norwegian flag flying on their port.
not
which is what you see
in
northern
Seattle,
Wisconsin.
but in Ballard and Crown Hill, you certainly see a lot
Yeah.
more of that.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
really
true.
like it's the multicultural Scandinavian. It's not just Swedish. It's like they're either Swedish, Norwegian, Finnish. Like we've got just a bunch of.
Wait, what about the Finns?
we
We're
got
talking about the Scandinavianness of, and also important to note, Finns are not Scandinavians. They're Nordic.
Yes, we are. Are you
The
serious?
fuck you are. No, you're not.
Yes, we are.
No.
Look at our flag.
No.
Our flag is a Nordic
No,
cross.
no Finn says that you're Scandinavians, and no other Scandinavian lets you guys in.
I-
It's Iceland, Denmark. Stop. Iceland, Denmark, Norway,
Sweden,
the Faroe Islands. They let
Yeah.
them in there too.
and us.
Not the Finns. It's a language. It's not a
I know-
geographical thing. Nordic countries is the geographical definition. Scandinavian is the language, and Finnish is not in the same language family. It's not in the same branch of the Germanic languages.
Yes, that's
It's
true.
Swedish.
Finnish is not.
That's true. We're definitely
any
not in the same.
branch of languages.
I know that, but culturally, we are Scandinavian.
I mean,
Because we were controlled. Because we were controlled by Sweden up until the
No.
1850s,
well, I mean, everybody.
and then
was,
Russia
but,
took
like,
us.
that was, yeah. I mean, you know, you guys are
So
kind
we're
of like
sort of like, we've been a part of the Swedish. We were a part of the Swedish oligarchy for 1,000 years.
So is Poland. That doesn't make them Scandinavians.
All
I
right,
thought they
welcome
were
back to
Russians.
Nordicast.
Welcome back to European History 101. Where John
Last week on Nordicast.
I might keep that in the podcast too.
You should.
I don't know how that's gonna come up naturally, but
Okay, now let's do the part where we try to do the intro again.
Oh, that's me, isn't it?
yeah, you're the host
It
today.
could be.
Yeah. I mean, unless someone wants to jump in. If either of you are itching to be host.
Nope.
I'm eating, so.
Oh, yeah. Good. Okay. Welcome back to another edition of slashMLS podcast. My name is Pete, username PunkRockPete, and I'll be filling in as host for Chris today.
I am Ian, username Armaskarhu.
And I am Josh, username 97227ist, and no, Finland is not a Scandinavian country. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Username Armaskarhu, Finnish for beloved bear, disagrees.
Beloved bear. Wow.
Yeah, that's. Well, there's a lot of ways that could go.
Well,
It's
okay.
either cute or really weird. I can't decide which it is.
Okay, well, Armas, as most know, well, maybe not most, but you guys should know that it's my middle name because it's, the middle part of my email address.
Sure.
So, and then, like, my third year of Salolapi, which is the Finnish camp where you go learn Finnish in the summer. It's up in Bemidji. Yeah, it's really cool, actually.
So you're like substantially you're more Finnish than I am Swedish, which is interesting.
Yeah,
I never tried to learn Swedish. So.
I'm technically, if you're more than a quarter, then you're more Swedish, like, heritagely.
And Josh, you did admit to putting together some IKEA furniture last week, so
I think it just makes me middle class. That doesn't have anything to do with culture. Oh man.
All right.
Go,
Well, so
MLS.
So we
Yeah,
have
you
this
guys wanna talk
domestic
soccer, or-
league.
Yeah,
Sure.
we haven't. I believe there's a soccer league in the United States.
There are ones in Sweden and Finland too, but
well, you start a sub podcast, and you can have us on as guests.
oh god, Finnish soccer is so disgusting.
Okay, wait. Now this is tangentially related to the podcast. In what way is Finnish soccer disgusting?
It's like if you took how Jose Mourinho plays, but instead of having good Chelsea players, you have bad Finnish players who don't have any technique at all.
Oh, okay. That sounds really boring. I've never actually watched any Swedish soccer, so I don't know. But I did go catch a game when I lived in Denmark, and it was not good. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but it was. Denmark is one of those leagues where there's one good team, and they win the league pretty much every year, and then everybody else just shows up to get stomped like 4-0.
Yeah, like Copenhagen's that team, right?
Copenhagen is that team, yeah.
I don't know what the team is in Finland, but our best Euro run, when we almost made the Euro Cup for the first time in our history, Roy Hodgson was our manager.
Wow. Look at that.
Well, I'm going to try to slowly bring us towards the American side. So, guys, who do you think would win in a Finnish, let's say, top-flight team versus Chivas?
Chivas would win, hands down.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they didn't beat Houston.
Yeah. Whoa! Look at that.
Oh, that was great.
That was good. And Houston is not a particularly fantastic team this year. They're really struggling.
Or a high-scoring team to drop
high-scoring.
4.
Yeah, away as well. That was
Chivas is known for giving up 4 goals. I feel like they give up 4 goals like every 3 games.
Yeah, the Sounders have dropped 6 and 5 in LA a couple of times in the last 2 years. So
yeah.
that's
Portland dropped
definitely...
a 5 on them last year.
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah. That's happened actually. I think they did the year before as well. But yeah, it's.
Well,
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is with Chivas, where they're just like. I mean, do they go down 3-0 and they're just like, screw it, you know? Like, let's go for that. Let's make a good narrative in which we constantly get stomped 5-0 instead of just losing 2-0.
It kind of feels that way. The Sounders' 6 goals, 5 of them were made by us, and 1 of them was what should have been own goal of the year. If that was a category, I don't know if you guys remember that game.
Oh, I remember that goal. I remember seeing that goal.
DeLuna fired on net with a header like
Yeah,
like
he
that
did.
was the goal. It was incredible.
I remember that. That was.
It
The
was
look
so
on
good.
Jake Kennedy's face, he just like crumpled to the ground and was just like, "What am I doing here?" It's like, why?
Like
is this
what?
my life?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm white, and I'm so much better than everyone around me.
Oh.
Speaking of being so much better than everybody around me, Eddie Johnson.
Oh.
Making friends. Oh, God,
no.
Eddie, come on.
Oh, that was not surprising, but hard to read. I mean,
Okay, so
You know-
I saw the thread where everyone lambasted him except for like 2 DC United fans, and I was one of those DC United fans.
That's your job now. Now you have to stick up for Eddie.
yeah, you're the Eddie Johnson defender. That's true.
And
And I
actually,
feel like he's going out of his way to punk you, to like play himself off the national team, and to just look like a giant asshole while
like
you're
punk
constantly.
me specifically.
You specifically, his number 1 defender in the subreddit.
So, and I did get a few amount of upvotes. I actually got no downvotes for it. However, I will say it's because in this week I have Timbers Flare. Because
Oh, you are incognito.
yeah,
Yeah.
but people should know. People,
You're clearly around in the subreddit enough that like
Yeah.
as soon as I saw you, it was really weird. It's just
Yeah.
and you and I kind of had a discussion about that the other day, that like there's just a subset of guys that I would immediately notice. You know, guys like Remy and guys like the Monsieur and I don't know, Bacteria EP and some Cruise Dude and you know all those guys that are.
I'm not on those guys' level, but I'm like, you know, everyone who makes it down that far in the thread, because it was only like at 5 points, so it was like, you know, buried in the thread. So everyone who makes it down that far should know most of those people.
So Ian, why do you have Timbers Flare?
a flare bet with our good friend Aaron.
Mr. Timber Flynn.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, I've said this in the subreddit and it hasn't gained a lot of traction, and then I've seen other people say it and it hasn't gained a lot of traction, or the mods kind of said no, or whatever it was. Like, I really like the idea of flare bets. It just seems like it adds a little bit of, intrigue and fun without really causing much harm at all. It's something you completely control. It just seems like I think it's a fun way to kind of have good-natured trash talk and to put some stakes out there. Like, I love flare bets, and I wish that they were more common in our sub.
What if you just arbitrarily changed your flare for a week? You're just like, what?
Because I'm not Whitecaps 2010. I'm sorry, Whitecaps 2010. That guy.
That guy. I just never know. And I asked him one time. I was like, okay, like what the fuck? What do you?
Well, he was on our podcast last year.
I remember that. But I asked him like, hey, what is with this? And he's like, I'm a man of mystery. And I was like, yeah, or schizophrenia, whatever it is. But no,
it's funny because he listens to this every week.
I know, and I'm totally just joking with him. But in a way, it's kind of nice to get somebody, and there are a couple of people on the sub who are genuinely just fans of not just MLS, but like the game in the U.S. and all the leagues. And it is interesting to see him like my team, and like that's one of like 8 teams like spread out across all these different Bellingham United and Charleston and Whitecaps in New York, and then somebody else, and
Lane United. This is
Lane United, which is like a tiny little team in Eugene, Oregon. Like I have no idea how he even heard about them.
Well, Bellingham and Lane, they're not far away from each other, are they? So he's probably in like that little corner.
They're not close.
Bellingham makes more sense if he's a Vancouver guy because it's so close to the border.
And Eugene makes more sense if he likes. That's far. I mean, that's like 4 hours south.
Maybe he's an Oregon Duck. Maybe he went to school there.
No, because we talked to him and he went to school in upstate New York.
Oh, just kidding. Okay. I was like, we talked to him, and I feel like I remember.
You know what it is? Lane United has a really cool crest. It looks
really cool crest.
It is a really cool crest. I am going to throw it out there, though. It's the Nottingham Forest crest. I love it when Nottingham Forest uses it, and it's good that they've got good taste. But when you look at it, you're like, Forest? Oh, wait, no. What is this?
Well, it's like friend of the show Orangutan, who's got FC
Hasenstall. Yes.
I'm telling you, that's a great logo as well.
It is.
He's had that one since that design episode, because that was when the crest competition was happening.
Right, and he discovered it in that thread and was like, "Oh my God, this is incredible."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's been his flair for a long time.
Yeah, he's been rocking that for a while.
Yeah.
I feel like at some point we were talking about.
Do you want to go back to defending Eddie?
Yeah.
Do it.
Well done, Josh.
I do because I actually have a good defense. So he said, right, that we don't have DC United is who I mean by we don't have a whole lot of quality on the ball in the midfield, and I feel like that's probably something Ben Olsen tells the team. That he says, hey guys, I know we don't have as much quality as other teams, and our midfield is Nick DeLeon, Perry Kitchen, Chris Rolfe, and Davey Arnott. Would any of you guys want to trade your midfields for mine? Like, is there a team in the MLS that has a worse midfield than us on the ball? Like defensively, it's pretty okay because Perry Kitchen.
Montreal.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah.
Montreal has Justin Mapp.
Well,
Justin Mapp is better than everybody on DC.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Continue. So you think this is just something that Olsen said, and then he's like, "Hey, we all know that you guys suck." Like just death eyeing them. Like
no, it's like because it seemed like he was trying as best he could to basically echo Ben Olsen's game plan. And I feel like in the explanation and the apology piece that came out today in the Washington Post, that's sort of the feel that I got is, Steve Goff talked to Eddie Johnson and then he talked to Ben Olsen, and Ben Olsen's like, yeah, I mean, that's like how, he's got a grasp of how we're trying to play. Maybe he'd like to take a quote or two back because he's like, misspoke, or not misspoke, just like he wasn't.
Well, if I may, I specifically pulled up this thread because there was a user that I wanted to quote, and that is username Weasel, Wheezel, rocking some Sounders flair. And his comment is my favorite in this whole thread, which is in reference to Eddie. His comments probably fall under the "you're not wrong, you're just being an asshole" classification.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about it. He's not wrong. I think we can all admit that, and you may be right that, you know, he might be taking those notes from the coach, but does it need to be said in public to the media? Is that something that he needs to put out there with the perception that he already has, with the issues that, you know...
Here's something that might surprise you. DC United's locker room is very close-knit. It is very tight.
That doesn't surprise me. It does surprise me that Eddie Johnson is in a close-knit, tight locker room.
Yeah, I would believe that it's a close-knit locker and Eddie Johnson.
Because I talked to this coach. It's sort of a friend of a friend type deal, but there was this Minnesota youth coach who's friends with the assistant coach of DC United. And he's basically like, Ben Olsen is the ultimate players coach. Like, he knows exactly how to handle guys, and he knows, you know, not to get them down, and that kept them going. That actually, they had pretty good spirits even going through last year, a historically terrible year. So Ben Olsen's really good at keeping that locker room out of control. It's not going to cause a problem. Is basically what I'm trying to say. Is anything Eddie Johnson says, pretty much, unless he says something really awful, it's not going to derail our locker room, more than likely.
That's good to hear. I mean, I would certainly say that was a problem in Seattle, and some of that blame has fallen on Siggy, that maybe while he might be an incredibly good scout and maybe his tactics are adjusting, that one of the things that he might not be is a great people manager, and that they needed to build a locker room that would have chemistry without him being the one to rein it in.
Well, you need someone to take leadership then on the player side. And exactly. I think you guys have that now. You guys got Dempsey and Evans and Ozzie Alonso.
Yeah. So. And according to Evans, he was on Extra Time Radio this week, and he made some comments about Oba, saying that, you know, I don't know what's different about him this year, but he's involved and leading in the locker room. He's constantly in the gym, and he's hungry. I don't care why. I don't want to know. I'm just happy that it's true. So I think there was definitely a conflict of personalities regardless of who it was, and obviously Eddie was unhappy with the money situation with his friend Clint coming in and getting paid. So yeah, I believe that somebody who's not Siggy might have a better reign on Eddie. I absolutely believe that.
Well, yeah, and there are a lot of coaches who used to be MLS players in the league now.
Yeah, 16 of 19. Yeah.
And Ben Olsen just happened to be, when he was at DC United, he was a captain for a couple of years, and he was the glue guy, the grit guy or whatever. And so he knows how to manage the American soccer schedule, and he knows how to manage locker rooms, I guess. And speaking of Oba, by the way, I am not excited that he didn't get to go to the World Cup with Nigeria, because the last thing MLS needed was Oba Martins in FU mode for the rest of the MLS season.
I'm just fine with it, because I see last year, before Clint came into form, and while we still had Eddie and all those things, our best pairing last year was Oba and Lamar Nagel. And that's who's going to be home while Clint and Brad Evans are off at the World Cup, and I'm 100% okay with that. We still have Kenny Cooper, who can either play in a 4-3-3 or come off the bench. Because
you guys have been using Nagel and Oba and Dempsey on the field at the same time, and it is scary.
It's crazy. On Sounder at Heart, and kind of the ongoing theme of this year is Hail Hydra. That's been the kind of mantra of the supporters, because just that's what it feels like. You know, you have so many attacking heads that are dangerous at any given time. Who would have thought, if you told me last year that at the quarter point that Oba would be leading the league at 6 assists? You know what I mean? That's nuts. 6 assists and 4 goals. He's having a fucking great year. I'm so happy. I mean, It's incredible. Lamar Nagel got a goal last night that put him third all time for the Sounders behind Freddie Montero and Eddie Johnson. I mean, there's not a lot that's unhappy in Seattle. I know
that goal was great, by the way, both on Oba and Nick. I don't know which was more impressive. Oba's weight on that pass to split the defenders, or Nagel's touch right in time just over the goalie.
Yeah,
and Fernandez was having a fucking fantastic day too. So
he was man of the match for me. He kept Dallas in that game 100%. Yeah. But we're jumping ahead. That was last night. We've got a whole weekend of games that happened before that. So do we need to say anything else about Portland and DC, or are we?
I feel like we actually haven't talked about the Portland DC game yet. We've just talked about Eddie and something else about Portland.
I mean, do you feel like there's a lot to say?
I don't feel like there's a huge amount to say. I think that Portland was very lucky that Eddie Johnson wasn't playing, because DC had so many corners and so many close-in free kick opportunities that Eddie Johnson, being very good in the air as he is, would have, at a minimum, gotten a couple very dangerous shots in. Because
I think he puts in one goal if he plays that game.
He's got great history in Portland too. I mean, he gets up for those Portland games. I know it's not the same when it's not Cascadia, but he just has a good history against the team.
Yeah, I mean, he's been there for long enough.
So I think that makes that game a very, very different game. DC had some. Who else was missing? There were two other.
Sean Franklin.
Was
that's our second. That's our third most important player this year so far.
Yeah, so I mean that was a fairly hamstrung DC team, and and I think that Portland beat them and still managed to concede a lot of corners and give up some very bizarre goals. Nobody should be taking too many positives away from that, because all in all, it still wasn't a particularly good performance.
Well, you say that, but I mean, DC's their thing this year. Ben Olsen likes to defend, and he doesn't have a back line that's fast enough. Even with Sean Franklin in there, the center backs are Bobby Boswell and Jeff Park, who have had a lot of success in the MLS, but they're also a little bit older and among the slowest center backs in the league. So it's not like he can stretch the field or anything. So that, it sort of becomes then one of those. It didn't happen as much as I thought it would, but it did happen some, where it becomes one of those Portland passes around the box type deals.
Yeah, but that was one of the first times that we've seen that this year, that their passing looked very coherent, and I think part of the big reason was that they had nothing to worry about from DC. There was nobody in the forward area in the Timbers third of the field to stretch them and force them to make tough decisions. It was fairly comfortable on that back line, and they still managed to make kind of a mess of it on multiple occasions. So I don't know. I mean, it's not like it was a horrible game or anything like that. There was definitely some entertaining moments to it, but of the games on the weekend, I wasn't one of the great games. And watching that as a Timbers supporter, I was like, yeah, this team's still not very good.
Well, I've been saying for a couple of weeks, that's the kind of game we're going to play pretty consistently.
Mm-hmm.
So, lucky for you, you only have to watch it once.
Well, it could be worse, Ian. You could be watching draw after draw after draw after draw. Yeah. But I watched Toronto New England, which was a very, very surprising game. And yeah, I thought it was a surprise. I mean, New England going to Toronto is, New England is a good team, but Toronto on paper looks like a much better team. They haven't really been doing it.
I'm not convinced of that. I think Toronto's three best are better than New England's three best, but then I think New England's 4 through 11 are better than Toronto's 4 through 11, and that's kind of a big deal.
That's a good point. You do see though that Toronto seemed to be in a lot of ways trying to just clear out a little bit. It almost looked like like the basketball strategy where you just like clear out and just let somebody go in and do their magic. And there was like. giving Bradley and Defoe space from their teammates, and it was an interesting move that has paid off on occasion for them. But
right, it's how they're going to have to play, because they also have somewhat of a weak back line. Donnell Henry is their brightest spot, and he's still 20 and developing, and probably starting for Canada, but I'm not sure. But if he's not starting for Canada, that's where he is right now. He's going to get a lot better. He's got a lot of potential, but it's a high variance team.
Yeah.
And it's gonna suck. It's gonna suck if Defoe and Bradley are both going. Bradley's definitely going, and Defoe might. If they're gone, that's like Toronto might be lucky to pick up 2 points during the World Cup stretch.
Yeah. On the other hand, New England looks really sharp, and that goal was.
Yes.
That was a pretty goal.
It certainly was.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that I remember a couple weeks ago, and we were like, there's just not that many people in MLS that can like put a good, dangerous curling ball on goal from beyond the 18-yard box. There was one, and it was pretty.
I fully agree. I picked New England early in the season as my team to watch. Not that they were going to take the league by storm, but I think that they're going to have a good season. I think they're going to continue to have a good season. I don't think it's a fluke that they're in. What are they now at first in the East? Or are they second? Somewhere, not that the East is the same bloodbath as the West, but I'm not going to be shocked.
Sixth. Toronto is 7th in the East right now.
And what about New England?
New England is third. Okay.
Third.
Well, actually, that's not true. There's a 4-way tie for first. New England's just in there on goal differential.
I expect New England to finish about third. I actually think that they'll avoid the play-in game and will be, second or third in the East. I think that I just think they've got a good team, and
that means
honestly,
that means they're topping Columbus. That means they're topping us. That means they're topping Toronto.
Yeah. And
they're topping Houston.
Well, I don't know that I would pencil New York into the second spot right now.
I would.
I definitely will pencil Kansas City to win the East. I think New York is inconsistent. I think that they've, had.
But that's their shtick. They've been inconsistent, but they're if they pull off 6 months of inconsistently good, it's what won them the Supporters' Shield last year.
That's fair.
And they won't have anybody going to the World Cup except for Roy Miller. And
that's a big. It's so hard to plan that, for us to think about.
Sorry. Tim Cahill's going too, but he doesn't have much of a role apparently. I read something from Doyle saying he doesn't have a starting role in this current New York team with Dex McCarty, Henri Luyendula up top, and someone behind them. I will remember.
Well, and not to shit on Australia too much, but they're clearly not making it out of the group, right? Like
they're not getting out of that group.
Even if you don't make it out of that group, though, that's still a month. That's 2 weeks before.
Absolutely, but they're not going to make it out of the group, so
they'll be home.
It's limited in that capacity. But so I've got New England circled because we play in New England this weekend, and it would be for the Sounders a historic win in that we've never won 6 in a row. We just won 5 in a row. It was like the second or third time in club history. And obviously being a young team, that's saying something. But 6 straight wins, not just undefeated, but 6 wins is a big fucking deal. And I'm not convinced that we're going to get it done because New England at home has a lot of talent. And, I feel very confident about my team and what our chances look like for the year right now. But this one single game, I could very well see a draw at best. I'd be really happy to walk out with a point in New England. The way we've been playing, dropping 2 points is not a problem.
Do you probably want this win, though, because this is Clint Dempsey's and Brad Evans' last game for a month?
Of course. But that's the thing is that, like,
Andre's last game for a couple weeks, probably, because he's probably making the 30-man.
He's probably making the 30, absolutely. I'm far more concerned about our back line than I am about our attack. Like, I know a lot of clubs are going to, well, not a lot, but some clubs are going to take significant hits, and like you said, like Toronto, can look at that World Cup period being like, holy shit, let's get a few points. I expect the Sounders to average 1.5 to 2 points during the World Cup. I think that, they're a strong team. And if we don't, it's going to be because Yedlin is missing. Our left back depth is low. I mean, we had Brad Evans play left back last night because both Remick and Gonzalez were injured. And that's what Brad Evans brings. He's a utility man, and I believe that's why Klinsmann's going to take him. But he will also be gone. So if you've got Yedlin gone from the back, right, and then you only have 2 guys that can play left back. One of them is a great long-term defender but is old and prone to injury, and one of them is a younger, shining but inexperienced player. I mean, that's for 5-6 weeks. That is not a lot of depth at left back. So I'm concerned much more with the back line than anything else. Like we talked about, I think having Oba and Nagel and Kenny Cooper and Marco Papa and Ozzy and Pineda, like I'm not concerned about, the front 8.
Just for
front
reference,
6.
your team's schedule from the time the World Cup camps open is home to San Jose, at Vancouver, home to RSL, at Chicago, and then a little bit after the group stage is at DC.
It's not a terrible schedule.
It's not. And RSL is going to be missing a lot too.
Yeah, RSL will be missing and will be at home. But, those are the teams that I've been looking forward to the Sounders playing. We haven't had to play San Jose. We haven't played LA or RSL. Like, some of those big pieces, like we've seen so much of the East already, which is crazy to me. Like, we've knocked out like half of the Eastern Conference since we only play them once a year. It's maybe even more than half at this point. With New England this weekend, we might be nearly done.
Yeah, and you don't get real San Jose here either because they're going to be missing Goodson and Wando and Bernardo.
Yes. So
they're going to be missing their center back pairing, which when you miss that as a DC United fan last year, that's the worst thing you can be missing in MLS.
Yeah. So I'm comfortable with our chances during the World Cup. I don't know if you said it on the podcast or before, but a pissed off Oba for not making the Nigerian team. Okay for me and probably scary for everyone else.
Yes.
He looked awfully ready last night.
Speaking of people doing things in a row, what happened to Dallas? Remember when they were really good and they were winning a lot?
Yeah, well, we beat them. Actually, that's what's crazy is that our 5 wins in a row right now are bookended by Dallas. The first win was the crazy one on the road, and then last night beating them at home. But you know what? To me, this is fully expected. All of the guys who are much smarter than me when it comes to stats and regression have basically said that they have been riding luck like no other team. That they are generating far more goals than they deserve based on chances and shots on goal and quality of shots. Like, they're regressing to the mean. And then you have Mauro Diaz injured. And then you have Javon Watson, suspended, and you've got George John out, and clearly the Dallas team that we played last night is not their choice 11. But yeah, I don't expect anything different.
The Dallas team that has lost 3 in a row. Their first one was against DC, where they were down to 10 men for 60 minutes. The second one was 1-0 at home against New York, where they were down to 10 men for 80 minutes. When Javon Watson.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And then on the road in Seattle.
And then on the road in Seattle, which losing.
Short rest. They played on Sunday, not Saturday, right? Yeah. So then they're flying to Seattle. Yeah, I mean, they honestly, Raul Fernandez kept them in that game. That could have been 3 or 4 goals for the Sounders and only a PK for Dallas.
If Taylor Seitz plays that game, you guys probably win 4-1.
Yeah, agreed. Well, what else? Chicago RSL. That was kind of a crazy game.
That was a crazy game. That was, yeah. Well, I remember you wrote an email or texted us or something like that, but it was like, I just saw a TV and Chicago's winning by 2 in Salt Lake, and I was just like, no.
Well, yeah, Chicago.
I was at the match. I was at
Chicago. Yeah, that's right.
I was at the Seattle-Philly match, and I looked up while I was buying a beer because our game hadn't started yet, and I was just shocked. It was like the 30th minute.
Yeah, that's right. It was at Chicago. It would be. I mean, it's still crazy as it is, but it would be really crazy if it was in Salt Lake.
Right.
But yeah, that was a hell of a comeback by Salt Lake to come back.
Absolutely.
I mean, it wasn't unexpected, but wow.
So, I updated my power tiers, and I very nearly considered dropping RSL from the first tier after that game.
Huh.
in
Wow.
favor of New York.
Wow.
I think RSL is interesting. You know, they are the last undefeated team, but they have what, 2 wins, 3 wins now out of
I
9?
think it's 2, or no, it's 3. Hold on, I have the standings
3.
right here.
I think the Chicago
It's
game
4.
was 3.
It's 4. It's 4.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
Oh,
3.
because they had a midweek game last night?
Chicago, they've beaten Chicago, they've beaten Toronto, they've beaten LA, and they beat, I want to say, Vancouver.
Maybe.
I swear I looked at the standings and they only had like 2 wins and
No,
6
they got.
losses.
They've
Huh.
I'm not looking this up or anything.
I got
They
this.
beat LA.
I'm on the results map right
now. Portland.
Oh, that's
and
it. That's the
Chicago.
4th one.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
That's right. I can't believe I forgot that game because that game was kind of sad.
I can kind of believe that you forgot that game.
So Ian, tell us why you're going to drop them a tier. And when are we going to get to talk about tiers again?
I'm writing a very long article about that. That I'm going to post it to Reddit, but I'm going to put a TLDR in the comments so that people don't have to go read 7,000 words of Ian.
Wow.
Are you going to post this in the next week?
I'm posting it on Friday. I'm posting it the same day this podcast goes out.
Perfect. Then you should be our guest next week.
Talk about your article.
Speaking of guests, I'm gonna plug the podcast a little bit. I'm a little bit excited, guys. We've got some good guests lined up in the near future. I won't throw any dates out just because everything's always open. But
well, also keep one of the names.
Yeah,
we haven't gotten the express confirmation from one of them, but we have gotten from the mod. From Remy.
What about the goalie?
Yep.
Okay, so we've got user Iron Goalie, who
yeah, that's right.
people are familiar with for running those awesome transfer rumor threads, as well as working with the Richmond Kickers. I think in an internship or something else. Ian might know more about that. And then Remy DWD is also confirmed, so that's really exciting. Obviously, a big member of the community. And at some point in the near future, in June, we are going to have Beer OMG Beer for what promises to be a very exciting episode.
It's going to be either a 60 or 90-minute.
I'm telling you guys right now, a 90-minute, we're not going to make it.
We can just sub on Max Arudi.
Yeah.
And
and then watch him miss his mouth repeatedly.
Or just drop the
over.
glass. Yeah, exactly. Somebody touched me. Ah.
Yeah.
Well, no, but Josh, weren't we talking about how Arudi's better served as like an 80th minute sub? That's exactly what.
Exactly.
He did exactly what he was supposed to do.
And that's probably going to be his role for the rest of the season. I hope, because he comes on and he runs around and he kind of pressures people, and he's not bad at that. He's just, he's not somebody who fits the way that the Timbers play very well. So, Vancouver, San Jose, also pretty good. That was another 3-2. There were a lot of 3-2s that last weekend.
Yeah, there was a lot of good. I have to say, MLS the last 5 days has been really fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, when we get to SKC Columbus, SKC doesn't typically play pretty games, but occasionally.
Let's get there.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we can go there. Sure.
No, we've got a lot of news to get through. Let's not spend too much time rehashing games that hopefully most people saw.
Yeah, so I can talk about SKC Columbus then?
Get it.
Yep.
So,
but hurry.
Okay, I'll hurry.
I'll just keep interrupting you to drag down further too.
So Sporting Kansas City, they're not known really for playing pretty games like I was saying. But 2 or 3 times a year, there will be a team who tries to do not exactly what they try to do, but sort of complementary to what they do, and it produces a really pretty game. I think that was Montreal last year. There was an early Sporting Kansas City Montreal game back when Montreal was pretty good. At the beginning of 2013, people were like, man, this is a great advert for MLS and how to play pretty and stuff. And I feel like that's sort of, the 2-0 scoreline to Columbus is sort of harsh to Columbus because they deserved at least a draw. Columbus as a whole deserves a point at least for bringing out pretty sporting KC game.
Yeah. I didn't see anything in this game, so I was actually, it was interesting when you were saying, like, oh, this was a great game, and then I saw the score and looked back at the highlights, and I think it was just the highlights cut that MLS had, but it made it look a little more one-sided than I thought it sounded from your description of it.
Yeah. No, it was. It wasn't, yeah.
Colorado, LA. Robbie Keane misses a penalty.
I didn't see that.
Oh, well, it was great. I'm trying to remember.
Well, you just think that's great because you're going to be directly competing with LA for the top spot in the West this year.
Oh, that is also a bold claim.
How is that a bold claim? It's LA. Of course they're going to be up there.
Yeah, but they haven't been. I mean, they've been in the playoffs, but
they won the Supporters' Shield in 2011.
That's 3 seasons ago. A lot changes.
They went to the MLS Cup 2 years ago. They were the 3 seed last year.
They're 3 seed, exactly.
Which they were like 2 points behind Portland, who got the 1.
Ian, they're getting old. I'm going to flat out dismiss LA.
What? How you can't dismiss?
Of course,
I can't dismiss Bruce Arena.
LA hasn't even gotten past their early season doldrums to come rushing out like they always do. So no, of course I'm not going to pass on LA. But right now they're not impressive, and so I'm going to pass on them until they are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also,
basically, when the World Cup is over and they come back and win like 2.5 points per game on average, that's when I'll be impressed because they're going to. We all know they're going to.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is right now, too, you look at the standings and you're like, oh, LA, they're, number 6. But they've played 6 games.
Right,
They haven't played 10. So, I mean, no fan of LA am I, but they're probably going to be fair.
That was a great way to say that.
Yeah.
Any other games from the weekend you guys want to chat about? Anything? I feel like we've covered almost all of them.
I think we said something about almost all of them except
Dallas, New York.
Well, we said Dallas lost, which is
and
really,
they did.
Oh, speaking of New York, so I got that message from Remy. He's like, so you guys talked 70 minutes last week, and the only mention of New York was like a vague reference to Shep Messing, and that
was It's true. Because none of us knows anything about New York except Ian, who hates them. So it's not going to say anything good. If Pete wasn't on this show, we'd never fucking talk about the Sounders. I don't care how good they're doing. If I wasn't on, nobody would talk about Portland because nobody would really care.
I would talk. I really liked Portland last year. Yeah. I was all RCTNY. Rose City till next year.
Oh, okay. I was like, I have no idea what that could possibly.
I thought we were just sticking with the Rose City, therefore I draw. That seems to be this year's.
Yeah, that does seem to be this year's. That definitely is it.
Well, should we talk about New York in any other capacity? They did beat Dallas, and I guess I said that I don't expect them to be the number 2 seed. Well, no, let me say that more clearly.
I expect them to be the number 1 seed.
It's not that I don't expect them to. It's that I'm not penciling them in at the quarter pole like you are.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. I expect them to be in the top 3 100%, but I'm not going to go ahead and just say they're going to win the East or they're going to lose the East by 1 point. I'm not comfortable with that yet.
I just think they're going to lose a lot less to the World Cup than Kansas City is. I still think Kansas City will be the better team.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that's, there's going to be 6 weeks, potentially, maybe even 8, depending on how far teams go in the World Cup, that Beasler and Zusi, who are like the 2 clock wheels of that team,
What kind of wheels?
Clock wheels?
Clock wheels. Yeah, you know how they say like a team, like certain soccer teams, like clockwork?
Okay, yeah. It was just a soft L.
Yeah.
Oh.
So speaking of that, though, speaking of 6 weeks versus 8 weeks, club over country or country over club, guys?
Wait, what do you mean?
That's probably a little easier for Josh to answer since he's not losing a whole lot to the U.S. team, and he doesn't really.
And he doesn't care about the national team, also.
But
okay, wait. That's okay. It's not. I had a weird conversation like this with somebody else recently, and it's not that I don't care, but I don't watch a ton of international football in general. I think that yes, there are great narratives to it, and it's exciting and it's fun, but by and large, a lot of the team play that you see on display, with the exception of a few countries that have a very strong tradition, the play that you see, the football being played, is not particularly great because you're grabbing people who don't play together all that often and throwing them on a field with tactical ideas that may not match with what they've grown up with and what their team plays, and sometimes they're being played out of position. Like lots of times you see fairly poor games that happen to feature some good players. And outside of teams that have a really, really strong identity, Italy, Germany, Spain, Argentina, Brazil, there's a lot of just very lackluster stuff. And CONCACAF in particular, I find the games, frankly, a little uninteresting to watch. I understand the drama of them, and it's fascinating to think of the great socio-political specter of it all, but I don't know. It's just it's not that great football. I mean,
so I'm gonna brag about that conversation I had with that Minnesota youth coach again.
Yeah.
And I made a point to him because we were talking at some point about youth development, and I said, the national team manager has to be a lot different from the club manager in that you're taking all these players who play for club teams, and with the exception of 1994. But you take all these players that play for club teams, and that's where they're getting their tactical training. So what a national team manager should be doing is just bringing all those guys in for what they do for their clubs, largely, so they don't have to retrain them tactically, and just let them play with each other the way they're sort of meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, I mean, that's, why Klinsmann's a good national coach and not a good club coach. Because his job is really just to make sure that the national team players are as good of soccer players individually as they can be. And I feel like no one's done that as well as Klinsmann has. And I know we had Arena, who's great, and Bob Bradley was great, but they were also great club managers. And what that means is they can install the tactics, and when you try and install tactics on the national team, it can work, but it might not work as optimally as if you're just trying to make them good individually, so that what they're trained to do naturally is what they can do for the national team.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's what, I wouldn't disagree with that. And so, yeah, it's not. So, sorry to go back to trying to defend myself a little bit here. It's not that I don't. It's not that I don't care about international football at all. I just don't. I find it a kind of bizarre, frequently overhyped thing where you get this sort of mishmash of players who are trying to play in their national style, whatever that is. And like I said, I think very few nations actually have a defined style in which they play. And lots of times it's just a little bit flat because no one seems to have the understanding that you get when you train day in, day out with someone for years. So that's all. And yeah, I don't watch a ton of national team games. So sue me.
Will you watch World Cup though? Will you go to Portland watch parties or Seattle watch parties?
Yeah, I'll probably watch some of them. I mean, definitely I'll watch. I'll watch games in the World Cup. Yeah, I watch U.S. games when they're in the World Cup and I can see them. So they're on odd times.
Yeah. Well, not this year though. They're on pretty.
Well,
this year.
Not for the West Coast. You think they're reasonable until you realize that it's like a noon game on a Thursday. That's not super reasonable.
Yeah.
The 3 o'clock game's a little bit better. I can work with that. I think we have a Sunday game, a Monday game at noon, and a Thursday game at 3 p.m. Or maybe the Monday's at 3 and the Thursday's at noon for us.
The Sunday's at 3 for y'all because it's 6 East
time. That's fine. Yeah, Sunday's fine. I mean, we're both weekend guys, so that's no big deal. But yeah, I will definitely be getting creative with my hours to be able to watch those games. Let's see. Speaking of national team players, Dempsey won Player of the Month for April. I feel like that's kind of old news at this point. Everybody knows he's unstoppable.
Yeah, he's the MVP this year.
Yeah, up to this point, I don't think much more needs to be said there.
Right.
We can talk a little bit about the fact that it looks like we're right on the verge of getting a deal with ESPN and potentially having the Fox part of it. No,
We should save that for next week because I saw an article today where that's going to be announced at the beginning of next week.
Perfect. Sounds good. So we'll just continue to move on. This is a little bit old news because it started last night, but I'm excited to see that U.S. Soccer started doing the broadcast for Game of the Round, even starting with the first round of the Open Cup. So
Nice.
we're gonna be guaranteed to see lower league, lower round games where before you basically had to wait until either a lower league team had enough resources to stream a game or wait until the fourth round when an MLS team chose to stream it, which still a lot of the time the fourth and fifth rounds were pretty dubious in quality. But with U.S. Soccer producing it, I didn't actually get to watch the game since I was at the Sounders game, but it seems like it was good quality. Everybody, I didn't hear any complaints.
I'm sorry, I completely missed this. Where was it on? What was it on?
It's just a live stream on
YouTube stream.
I think it was on the internet, yeah.
Yeah.
On the internet.
But it's being produced by U.S. Soccer, so they're supposedly using good quality equipment. And
Yeah.
It's not somebody streaming off their iPhone. Oh, whoops! I dropped the camera. Cool. What is this? SKC's. Wow, I fucked that up. SKC's champ ring.
I like SKC.
No.
That's good.
SKT. It's like the Italian version of Kansas City. Now with hashtags.
Yeah.
It was hashtag louder.
Yeah. So
you put that on the ring.
They had a
it was on the inside of the ring.
Beautiful ring. The ring is absolutely gorgeous. It's really well designed. It's got the player's name on one side. It's got the shield on the front. It's a gorgeous looking ring. I think they even used blue diamonds for the shield, like in the parts where the Kansas City shield is blue. And it's just a great looking ring. But when you look at the inside, the whole thing is engraved with each of the games that they had to win to get there. So it has all of the playoff scores, and then and then it has the RSL game with the score, with the penalty kicks, and it has hashtag louder above it, which sporting fans have pointed out that was kind of a big deal during the playoffs. That was kind of their motto. But I don't know if 10 years from now, when you look back fondly at that cup that you won, if that's what you're going to remember. I mean, now you will because it's in the ring, but, I don't know.
Well, it's sort of like
fans won't, because I don't think the fans get rings.
Wait, they don't?
I don't know what your season ticket. Seattle might be crazy. Actually, I would sort of expect, honestly, for the season ticket holders of Seattle and Portland, for some reason, to get championship rings once you guys win MLS Cup. I wouldn't put it past Paulson and Drew Carey and those guys.
We don't get nice. I mean, I look at the swag that Rachel brings home from Sounders games. We don't get that stuff. They don't need to give things out. There's very little effort needs to be put forward.
So Pete, you should be expecting a ring, not Josh.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, well, I mean, is a ring gonna fit on your finger when it's swollen from alligator bites?
That's true. There was a great picture of him. His middle finger was bitten, and at the DC game, he walked out and flipped everybody off, which was really funny. He flipped off the whole TA, which was entertaining.
Oh, man.
So just back to the hashtags, really quick. I think that it's like if DC got their fax number put on their rings in the 90s. It's something where you're going to...
Thank you. It's going to be so dated.
You're going to get this antiquated technology, and people are going to be like, hey, did you guys know there's a hashtag in there? And people will be like, oh, yeah, remember Twitter? Like, no, I'm young.
Remember that was a thing?
Yeah, remember when that was a thing? Like,
before you were just beaming thoughts into people's heads when you actually type it out?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, good for them, I guess.
Yeah, whatever. It sounds like they got a nice ring. So.
Yeah, no, it really is. It's a very, very nice ring, and good for those guys. That's pretty cool.
Well, it better be. They won fucking MLS.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you get anything as the Supporters Shield winner other than the physical shield? Like, do those guys get like a medal or like anything?
Yeah. The players get a medal.
Okay, cool. That's good because I feel like
Well, now
I don't want to get into the larger. Huh?
I said now they do.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I don't want to get into the larger argument of what's more important or what should be more important, but I feel like in MLS we treat the Shield as less important. So I'm glad to hear
it is less important.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
this is intense. We're never going to finish
know
this
when
on
it wasn't?
time.
No, we're never going to finish.
Wasn't
We're
less
never going to
important?
finish.
It was less
When
important.
it was a balanced schedule. Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
in 2010
Yes.
and 2011, those were the only 2 years the Supporter Shield was important.
Yeah. No, a balanced schedule would make it more important. That being said, I still think that winning the league is important. I think
I'd love to win the league.
The playoff format is just
4 times. I mean, that's we claimed 4 trophies for that. So I think it's great. But
yeah. To go real quick when we were talking about this season ticket holders and the ring and stuff, I just wanted to point out I had a conversation with a guy who owns season tickets for the Edmonton Oilers in the National Hockey League. And if you don't know, the Edmonton Oilers have been a very, very bad team for a long time. They were
the Oilers.
Yeah, they were a historic team. They had Gretzky, right?
For our Stanley Cup.
There you go. And they have a great history, but they've been really, really bad for a long time. And just out of curiosity, when talking about season tickets, I asked him, and he's got good seats, so it's not like he's sitting in the nosebleeds, but I asked him what his tickets cost on an annual basis. And he told me it was $15,000 per
Jesus
seat.
Christ!
Per seat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man,
it made me feel very good about my season ticket holder status for Seattle. I'm making a much more value conscious decision.
Well,
that is crazy. I know people who have season tickets at Bayern Munich, like really nice season tickets at Bayern Munich, and I think they're like 2,000 euros a year.
But how many games do they play at home?
Well, between the German Cup, Champions League, and the regular league.
Yeah, but those aren't all included, right? I mean,
yeah.
Oh, are they?
Yeah,
they are.
Yeah, you get all of it.
It's not like America where you have to buy all those tickets separately.
No. You get all
outside
that
of
stuff
league
in there.
play, obviously, we have to buy all those tickets.
So do season ticket holders not get? Because the Carolina season ticket holders get U.S. Open Cup games.
We get priority to buy them, and they are very, very cheap, but they're not included. They tend to be like $15, but or even $10 sometimes. I think like the first round, like round 4, would probably be $10 maybe, but they're not included, and neither are CCL games or anything else like that. So
yeah, I should also say that in Germany is notorious among Euro leagues for being very, very inexpensive for people to go see. So.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, and Canada is definitely more expensive in hockey because they all love it and they sell out no matter what. But they do see 41 home games, so that is, there's that too.
I think Canada this might be like sacrilege. They might like sports more than America does.
I would make the same argument that you made about Toronto and New England. I think that they care more about their top 3 sports than we do, but their bottom 8 sports, we care more. I think we have a broader depth of sports caring. It's like
I don't know, man. They care about curling.
That's number 2, though. Surprisingly, curling is the number 2 sport in Canada, so yeah, they care about it a lot.
I think there are more.
Curling is their NBA.
I think there are more Canadians watching MLS on TV than there are Americans watching MLS on TV.
Yeah, but all their games are nationally broadcast. They get TSN and CBC.
We have one game a week nationally broadcast.
Yeah, but every Canadian team is nationally broadcast week after week after week.
Why don't we have that, man?
We're getting there. We'll talk about it next week.
Speaking of the
I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because I know that we've kind of had this talk over the last couple of weeks. We've got just a few.
Uh-oh.
Number 1 and number 2 kind of go together. Orlando City has announced that their new stadium is going to increase to 25,000 seats instead of 18.
Okay.
So they're seeing enough, season ticket deposits and interest that they have decided, even in their first year joining MLS, that they're going to bump it up all the way to 25K. Are they expanding too quickly? Is that a dangerous territory rather than trying to get a season or two of 18, or is it worth it?
I think it's worth it.
I mean, you're not going to have a situation, or the worst thing that could happen is you have a New York situation, and that's not even that bad.
Yeah.
Or like the Red Bulls, because they built 25,000 seat Red Bull Arena. They barely sell it out. They do sometimes though, and we've just gotten used to that looking like a quarter empty, and it really doesn't even look that bad.
Yeah, agreed. If they bring 20 to a 25,000 stadium and slowly build support, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's fine. Anything over 2/3 or so is fine. I think it's when you start getting into the like half empty sort of,
DC Chivas New England levels.
Yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Outside of hurricanes, they don't really have the weather issue. They don't have the it was so rainy and snowy that half the people that had tickets didn't
really
show up.
Hot.
It can get uncomfortably hot in Florida. I was down there helping a friend move from Sarasota and from Orlando up to New York in August of like 2012, and it was uncomfortably hot. I wouldn't understand 90 minutes.
High 90s and high humidity is.
It's gross.
It's not.
Gross.
It is gross. Yeah.
Also, USL Pro in almost the same type of story. Sacramento Republic FC, for their second home game in a row, had another nearly 20,000 crowd. So they are announcing their consideration. They haven't officially said it, but they're considering to increase the temporary stadium that they're building from 8,000 to 12,000. I think that's much less risky. I think it's a great idea. I'm in support of Orlando doing it as well, but I think this is a no-brainer for SAC. If they're bringing 20,000 people, even in just their first couple of home games, even if that drops to 14 or 13, they're still going to sell out a 12,000 seat stadium every single week. So good for them. I think they're still, I think they're still in the conversation of teams that are going to get looked at real hard over the next 2 years. If they can keep that up, especially with good on-field product, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with as far as looking at expansion or, hopefully not a move by a current team, but mostly expansion, I would think. So that's it for USL Pro, except
St. Louis.
St. Louis.
Yeah. I feel really strongly about this, and so does Taylor Tolman. St. Louis needed an MLS team like 18 years ago. They were back in when we qualified for the 1990 World Cup. They played pretty much all the home games in St. Louis, and St. Louis was really the first. Like that was what kept American soccer alive in the down periods between 1950 and 1989. When NASL wasn't happening. So just like from a historical standpoint, I mean, that's where, first of all, I think that'd be a great place to put the U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame that we are looking for that's just hiding away in a garage in North Carolina. And then if you compare that with a USL Pro team that I'm sure will get a lot of support. St. Louis has had minor league teams before, but all very, very poorly run. And this one seems like, USL Pro starting to get their shit together, and I'd love for that to be a real thing.
Awesome. All right, well, we're getting into lightning round time, so we're going to power through these last couple of notes here. Rapids get a sponsor.
Good for them. They're closer to breaking even. I didn't realize that they've never broken even, so hopefully.
I also did not realize that.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that like many people have posted, that they kind of rework their logo of that sponsor. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's Chow. It's a telecom thing.
I saw it yesterday. I saw the Colorado San Jose game yesterday. It was hilarious.
Wait, do they already have them on the kits?
They do, yeah.
Oh, does it have the icon?
Yes, it does.
Oh no!
The message bubbles.
I didn't realize they already had that up. Nice.
With the message bubbles.
I last looked at this on the weekend when it was still like, oh, I hope they drop the message bubbles and just use the word.
Yeah.
That's too bad. Nope. All right. Well, we're just gonna move on then. You guys want to talk about two hard to pronounce names that start with G?
Wait a minute. This guy's first name, Nigerian. They got some good names there. God's Way.
Ghanaian. He's Ghanaian.
Oh shit. Well, whatever. Former English colony in the West Africa. I'm sorry. I know that they're very, very different countries with radically diverse histories, but they were both English colonies back there, and I always get them screwed up. And they both give amazing biblical religious names to children.
God's Way.
God's Way.
Who was the college basketball player way back when? Like
that is not anywhere near enough information.
God's gift Achue.
Oh, okay. Yeah, something like
face.
That. Yeah, I'm actually surprised that they're just loaning him. So this is the first player to be loaned from Manchester City to NYCFC. I'm surprised they're even arranging a loan. I think they should just sell him to Man City or to NYCFC. Like sell him. I'm making air quotes right now because they're about to get hit with I don't know how many hundreds of billions of euros of financial fair play penalties, but they're
saying that they won't be able to. Your conspiracy theory about them trying to just set up clubs so that they can skirt financial fair play. I think UEFA is looking at that and saying, "I don't think you can do that." Nope.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I mean,
that's what I read.
He also said that no matter what, they're never going to kick somebody out of the Champions League. So there's also it's a little bit toothless, but I think they are going to be levying fines against PSG. Anyways, he looks like a great prospect, and
but doesn't this mean for NYCFC that they get the huge benefit of not paying all that money and not taking the cap hit? I mean,
well, I mean, do we know
much about the loans from the ownership groups? I mean, I know it's all MLS and Garber bucks and lack of transparency.
Well,
but
that's intra-organization there too, in that Man City organization. So that's just financially, you could make that look however you want it to look, probably.
Right.
So
yeah. You could say like, oh, we're paying this guy $5.
Yeah, he could be like a homegrown player, right? Like he could count
he's playing for free,
7,000 or whatever. Yeah, just love of the game and exposure. It's like when you're a model, he's just building his portfolio.
Yes.
I mean, he's going to be in New York, so.
Yeah. Gideon Zelalem.
Wow, that was impressive.
I have a sweet spot for Arsenal. I will.
Really?
I mean, of the big four teams in England, I find
I only say that because like all of my friends in America who like the EPL like Arsenal, like every single one of them.
No, like basically my rule with any European soccer, same with American soccer as well. The team that has the least money, I want them to win. So of the big four teams,
isn't your owner like? Doesn't his father control like America's money?
He used to, yeah. He used to. I didn't say that this doesn't apply. I support River Plate in Argentina, which is, I mean, they play in the national stadium, and I think they fit about 60,000 people in there every week. They're not hurting either. This isn't something completely rational. This is just objectively when I'm watching a game and I don't know anything about, or I don't have any vested interest in the outcome. I just say like, less rich guys, I hope you beat the richer guys. And Arsenal has traditionally spent a little bit less money than Manchester City and PSG and Man United. So, anyways, but I don't like that. I mean, they can still crumble into the ocean. I wouldn't care that much. But yeah, he looks like a promising player, and it looks like he's going to come play for the United States. Has anybody ever seen him play or seen highlight reels of him?
I think this is sort of like the Julian Green situation.
Yeah, we could all say that we have. We could just make things up. He's a great goalie. No, he's a winger. Yeah, I don't know.
Does he play goalie for Kansas City?
He does. Only in PK situations. And if you want to get into technicals, since I've researched him so much, he's actually an inverted keeper, so that's important to know.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, just yet another German.
What inverted winger means. This is like, I know I'm a terrible person, but I don't know what inverted winger means.
It's not a thing. There's the inverted W. That was a thing for a while.
It means that their weak foot is the side that they're playing on. So a left-footed player playing on the right.
That's it.
So a guy that tends to drift in centrally because he's left-footed.
I thought it was this big complex thing. It's just a right-footed guy playing on the left side. That's all an inverted winger.
Or vice versa. And because it affects how they play. It affects, I
mean, I understand that. I just didn't realize, like, I've played as an inverted winger then. Is what I'm
It's simply a tactical thing of how that guy is going to play because he favors that foot, so he's going to drift in and look for shots as opposed to putting crosses from the outside. Blah 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 blah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's a fantastic note to call it a night, guys. Do we have any bold predictions for the week?
Has it really been an hour? It has been an hour.
It's been an hour and a half. I know.
Yeah.
Well, no, because I started the recording late, and then we didn't.
Okay.
I didn't press the button.
We're going to keep stuff in starting at like 6 feet, so.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
we're
true.
done.
This one doesn't have enough crap in it. Bold predictions. God, I just can't think of anything. Like none of these. I don't look at any of these
There's a schedule
games.
down here.
I know. I'm looking at the
schedule's
schedule. I could see Montreal shocking Kansas City. That's going to be my bold prediction.
Ooh.
Seriously, Montreal just lost to the worst team in NASL.
Just saying. That's why it's a shock.
That's why it's bold.
That's why it's a shock.
That's why it's bold.
And then they literally lose to Kansas City like 5-0 like 2 weeks ago.
Ian, it's bold.
It was like 3 weeks ago. You never know. They're up in Montreal. The weather could be crazy. The language is throwing everybody except Colin off.
Zusi is thinking about the World Cup. And...
Yeah, everybody's taking a nap.
Ian, what do you got for us?
Well,
Ian.
my team's gonna win their game. That's not bold.
You know what? I think it's a little bold. Philly, we didn't talk about Philly and the Sounders too much last Saturday. They are a much better team than their record. They really are.
Yeah, they're actually a decent team.
They're the opposite of Dallas. I think that they are having very poor luck for the shots and quality of shots that they're generating. I think that they're a much stronger team than they have appeared thus far.
I had a big rant on Philly for some reason at some point. I don't remember why. Oh, no, I do remember why. It's because I didn't agree with their draft pick or their draft strategy, but that doesn't have anything to do with how they were playing right now. So.
Yep.
All right, so my bold prediction is going to follow Josh's. I'm going to say that Chicago goes in and shocks New York.
Ooh, that would
because
be a shocker.
after the RSL game and just the way that things have gone for them, they're due. And
I think they're due to lose.
I think it could be. I think it could be on a dubious PK. I think that it certainly might not be a pretty result, but I think that they might get a result.
I think
I'm gonna go Portland, LA, tie. Yeah.
Whoa!
I know. You're shocked, right? I'm gonna be at that game as well, so I think maximal tie action.
I think Portland's beating LA this week.
Ooh.
Portland did really well against LA last year. But that was last year. I don't know if you've noticed. Last year and this year, not the same year.
Here's the thing about...
It's almost like somebody just incremented some sort of arbitrary integer, and said it's completely separate from last year.
So, I feel like LA's center back pairing is very average, and I feel like we had a pretty good center back pairing against y'all last week, but had we not, Portland could have put in 2 or 3 more goals. And Leonardo might be one of the worst center backs in the league. I feel like what I hope happens is they have Robbie Rogers playing down for Los Dos. They're experimenting with him at left back. I think what's going to happen is they're going to bring him up, play him at left back, play Todd Donovan in center for when Gonzalez gets back, and pair him with Gonzalez. But for now, that isn't going to happen. And this is Gonzalez's last game, and he's going to have that, it's almost World Cup time thing that you said that SKC.
He already does. I'm going to make a bold statement right now. If the World Cup was in August and not July, Chad Marshall would be going in Gonzalez's place. If there was more time for evaluation,
That's ridiculous.
He has looked terrible, and Chad Marshall deserves every opportunity to be on that team.
But I don't think you give people the opportunity at the World Cup.
That's what I'm saying. If there was more time for friendlies, for more evaluation,
a lot of friendlies.
England
you need a good number of friendlies to take somebody to the World Cup.
That opportunity at the World Cup.
I just think that Gonzalez has looked terrible, and I loved him last year, and he is not.
Well, last year he didn't have to play with Leonardo.
Yeah, but it's more about him. It's about his decision making. It's about his hesitation. It's about he's looked.
Omar Gonzalez is there to react. Omar Gonzalez is there to to put out the fires. He's the one who's best at scramble defense. Matt Beasler isn't so good at that, but he can command the defense, and that's what he does in Kansas City. And I feel like that's what his role for the national team is.
Okay, I'm standing by it. That's all I've got.
But I will say I do want Goodson to get a start at least in one of these friendlies over Gonzalez.
I'm really excited for our 30-man roster on Monday.
Me too.
I really want to see where that goes.
Bold prediction. Here's my bold prediction. One of Matt Doyle's boys, either Justin Mapp or Benny Feilhaber, gets to the 30-man.
That's fair. I think it's got to be Feilhaber at this point. Not to say that Mapp hasn't been playing impressively, but I mean, he doesn't have. I don't know what else to say. I just don't think he gets that call.
Someone should go rescue him from Montreal.
Yeah, exactly. He could be such an important piece on a good team.
I want
You know what we
want
need
Columbus
to
to rescue him.
You guys need him. You're talking about
We do.
how
You're right,
talking
we
about how
do.
sad your midfield is. Eddie Johnson needs better service and better quality players around him. You need Justin Mapp.
Yeah, we do. We absolutely need to. I didn't think of that until just. And I don't know why, because that's my team. I guess I'm just not used to my team making good decisions.
That's fair.
So.
All right. Well, on that note, let's call it a night. And
All right.
anything else to say, guys, before we call it?
Go Blazers. Hey, why not?
They're playing right now, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. That's another reason why I want to get off this call.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Well, fantastic.
ya.
So we'll just call it, or do we need to talk anything programming? We're good? Good.
Yeah, I'm just gonna cut it off at some point.
Just edit out a lot of incoherency, but keep the funny stuff about Scandinavia.
Yes, please do.
I feel like you said that thing at the beginning of the podcast just so I could keep that in.
Awesome. All right, guys, have a lovely evening, and we'll see you next week.
All right.